the main driving thing for me is just like, I always have this vision. I have this vision. Getting up each day is an opportunity for me to work on that vision. And that's, within the business itself. It's like within our clients and everything that comes together. And I'm thankful for our clients, and I wouldn't be where I am now without the clients. And I think about that often as well.
From Fiore Communications, it's How I Got Here, a show of inspiring stories from Tallahassee area leaders, business owners, and neighbors, all the challenges, opportunities, inspirations, the twists and turns of life that led them to where they are today. Everyone has a story worth telling, and I am really grateful that we get to bring a few of them to you. I truly have been changed by my conversations with these amazing people, and I'm confident you will be too. I'm Dave Fiore, and in this episode, I speak with Sherman Rosier, owner of Fit and Functional, a personal fitness and wellness studio with 2 locations in Tallahassee. Sherman's interest in fitness was born as a runner at Cobb Middle School, where he had the chance to train with the Lincoln High cross-country team. He would go on to study physical therapy at Florida A&M University and become a personal trainer, developing a hybrid approach to wellness that focuses on general fitness and also helps those with limitations. His interest in business was piqued after working summers with his grandfather on a hog farm and in his stucco business. While he appreciated the experience, Sherman decided he would rather be the person writing the checks. His path took a twist literally in high school when he felt his decision to wear dreadlocks negatively impacted the way he was perceived, both at his jobs at a grocery store and fine dining restaurant and later as a student in the FAMU College of Business and Industry. Sherman has weathered the storms of the Great Recession and COVID shutdowns and continues to follow his dream to make Tallahassee a little more fit and functional. We began our conversation talking about growing up all over Tallahassee.
I have 2 younger sisters. It's kind of a longer story than that. My mom was remarried when I was 5.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with my biological father. I kind of knew him, but not that well. Only saw him a couple times at a very young age. So my mom was remarried when I was 5. I was adopted by that father when I was 13. That's how I got the last name Rosier. That's not my birth name. So, but he had a family prior to marrying my mom, and so I had some brothers and sisters.
So what do you remember most about those early years of your life in childhood and elementary school?
I mean, with me, I was I'm moving around a lot, so it was kind of adapting each time to your new environment and just kind of figuring out as a kid, who you are, so to speak, as someone that's under the age of 10.
Right. A lot of self-awareness there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And
was that easy for you to go from school to school and make new friends? And
I think the hardest transition, the first year from kindergarten to first grade, that was a move. It wasn't that big of a deal because I was, going from kindergarten, not really in kindergarten. You're doing building blocks and whatever. I'm not sure, but that wasn't that big of a deal. I guess the biggest transition was when we moved from the south side over to Killarn.
What about middle school? Where'd you go there?
Middle school is Cobb.
Okay.
Cobb Cubs. So, for most, kids growing up, middle school was that big transition as well. Going to the 6th grade, that's when you kind of determine who you're going to be spending your time with and who are your real friends and who aren't your friends.
Right.
And you carry some of the friends over from elementary. My biggest thing in going into Cobb, my 6th grade year was I had these 2 sets of friends, these guys. One group was not that studious, and one group was. So I found myself splitting time between these 2 groups of friends, and I had to come to the point of determine what's the best.
Right. Which path are you going to take?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Completely. And so that's where I kind of cut ties with some of my friends that weren't that, on the right path, so to speak, and started really spending time with the friends that I felt were smarter than I was, and I wanted to be at their level.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was probably a good choice in the long run. And then high school was at Lincoln?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. What were you experiencing then, and how were you developing into kind of finding new things you were interested in, or what were those years like?
Yeah, so at Lincoln, I got into like running, and while I was at Cobb, actually my next door neighbor, who was a couple years older, he actually was at Lincoln. So at my 8th grade year at Cobb, I started like in that summer, I started practicing with the Lincoln High School cross country team. So that was like my first experience going into high school in Lincoln, was running with the team the summer before starting high school. So that was a big part of my high school life, was running track and cross country. And all my electives through high school were business related electives. My 11th grade year, I was nominated, outstanding, business student for high school.
So what made you interested in the business stuff?
I spent a lot of my summers with my grandfather growing up, and he was a business guy. He had a stucco company, and he also had a hog farm I would help out at.
Where was that?
The hog farm.
I mean, was it local?
Yeah, it was local here in Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I would spend time with him during the summer months at the hog farm, or doing working with him throughout the week on his stucco jobs, where I would be like the cleanup guy,
right?
Carrying mud buckets and sweeping, getting everything kind of clean when the job was done, so to speak. And he would hand me cash at the end of each week. I would see him handing cash and writing checks for other individuals that were working with him, and I just, one day I said, I want to be the person, writing the checks, kind of being in charge. So that's that whole business entrepreneur thing came.
Did he talk to you about kind of how it works, about expenses and revenue and all that?
Not really. I was like, I'm an observer. I look, I listen. I really don't ask any questions unless I don't really understand. But there may have been conversations that, kind of centered around that. Nothing in great detail that I can remember, but it was just more so from my observation and understanding, like, okay, he works for himself. He's responsible for getting certain jobs and then hiring people and being in control of his schedule and so to speak. So that's when, and probably like at the age of maybe 11 or 12, that's when I kind of knew that I want to go towards something in business, being self-employed entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so after high school, you attended Florida A&M University.
Correct.
Right? Was that directly out of high school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And was that always the plan? Was FAMU always where you wanted to be, or what was that decision process
not
like?
necessarily. So I worked my way through college. So I had a partial scholarship to like Brown University, actually, which I never accepted, because even with a partial scholarship, I was like, I couldn't afford it. I applied to FAMU, and more so of the fact that versus anywhere else, because I wanted to actually experience, I guess, the Black experience, so to speak. Growing up, because we moved out to Kelowna, I was age 10, and majority of my friends were white. I had a couple Black friends as well, but I felt kind of like disconnected from the Black community. Well, my reason was to go to a historically Black college and kind of I guess learn more about my heritage of myself and be a part of that. Even though and when I was at Cobb, I was a member of the Black History Rainbow team, all out my 7th grade and 8th grade year. So I always had an interest in Black history as well. But that was my reason. One of my reasons for going to FAMU. That was one. It was local. And then also that I felt that in my heart, I wanted to experience that versus going to FSU or something like that.
All right. So you're at FAMU. You earned a degree in physical therapy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So in what year was that?
98. I originally went with the FAM, not for PT, not for physical therapy, but for business.
Oh, okay.
So
what caused you to make that change?
So I got there. I did my first year, my freshman year, just your general studies, and speaking with my advisor here and there, and she thought I should be a math major because I was really good at math, but that wasn't my desire. But and finding out more about the SBI School of Business and Industry at FAMU, it's very geared toward corporate business, not necessarily for entrepreneurship. And I wasn't really like corporate world wasn't my sort of goal, like working, in the corporate world, but more just being an entrepreneur, whatever that meant or what I would do. But towards the end of my freshman year, I started learning more about the School of Business and Industry, and then kind of decided I didn't want to go there. Partially at that point in time, I had dreads too. This was another big deciding factor. This tells a little bit about me as well. It was very conservative. This is in the mid '90s. So
wearing suits to class.
Oh yeah,
right?
FAMU, you got to be dressed pretty nice to go
in the business school. Yeah, you're dressing the part.
Yeah, dressing the part. Yeah,
right.
Even at FAMU, even if you're not in business school, you're still dressing well. Yeah. But especially in the business school, yeah, you got to look clean cut, conservative, and
because like you said, some of that is aimed toward corporate America.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And I understand it. At that point in time, being African American, Black male, you want to make sure nothing's holding you back, for as appearance wise or whatever it may be. But I had dreads at that point in time. My whole process of growing dreads was a whole new topic as well. I decided that.
Well, I'm interested in that. So, when did you start growing dreads and why?
So we can lead up to the business stuff too.
Okay,
at FAMU.
However that ties together. Yeah.
My high school year, my senior year in high school, during spring break, I had a high top fade, which was pretty popular back then. We're at St. George Island, me and a bunch of my friends, and I had the idea I wanted to grow dreads, get my hair dreaded. Talking about it, whatever, and then one evening, next thing I know, my friends that are around me, like three female friends that are from high school, they're around me, that start twisting my hair. Mm-hmm. I'm just sitting there, just start so you're gonna dread your hair. So that's how it all started. And I got back to my house, got back home from spring break. My mom's like, no.
So the top is twisted, but the sides are still
Exactly.
Still faded, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You got it.
And your mom was not a fan?
Not at all. I kept them in. At that time, I was working at a cashier at Food Lion that was open back then in Kelowna.
Right.
So what I would have to do, I would twist my hair during the weekday, but when I went to church, I had to take it out. I would come back home from church and twist it back up.
That's not really how dreads are supposed to work, right?
It's not. They got to stay in so they lock up over a period of time.
Right.
But that went on for, I don't know, maybe a month or two. It was I was just trying to do what I wanted at the same time, but appease my parents and at this. But eventually, everyone just kind of went with it. And a part of that too, experience-wise, working at Food Lion as a cashier at that time, they had recently started doing drug testing. And my supervisor, the manager, she was actually a Black woman. She was kind of like my mom, we don't know if we don't have to have dreads at our, whatever. It's a whole stereotype that went along with that. That was not necessarily true.
And again, that seems so strange now.
Yeah.
But back then
in Tallahassee,
right?
If you're in South Florida, Miami, whatever. But here in Tallahassee, you didn't see a whole lot of Black guys in the mid '90s with dreads,
right?
So, but anyways, working at the grocery store, and they started doing these drug testings, and my name came up a little bit too often for my liking.
They were supposed to be random.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, every 3 months or whatever.
Okay.
So, and even though I had dreads, I was the clean cut, kind of conservative in dress and whatever type of kid. So, but anyways, during that course of the time of this, the first time it happened and then the second time it happened, there was a woman who was a customer who came in pretty often. Her name was Connie. Her and her brother owned a restaurant called the White Swan. Mm-hmm. So one day she came through the line and said, "Hey, I love your demeanor, and so if you ever want to work as a server, here's my card, contact me." And so I don't know about waiting tables. I don't, I'm not that outgoing of a person to to wait tables. Right. But anyway, so I kept her information, and then after the third time, I was called for this random drug test. Within 6 months, I was whatever, I'm out. And not because I was trying to hide anything. I didn't want to be treat it in that way.
So somehow your appearance, specifically your hair,
Yes,
led people to think you were more likely to take drugs.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. I was being sarcastic.
But so that was like the final draw. And I said, I'm leaving, whatever. I was going to quit. And my supervisor, I can't remember his name right now, but nice dude, nice guy. He says, we don't want you to quit. We're going to give you a raise and da-da-da-da. Because I'm the type of person, whatever job I do, I'm going to do my best at it.
Yeah.
And I work hard no matter what. If I'm working for someone else, I'm still working hard for you. So that was never an issue. It was just a hair thing. But I called up Connie. It's like, I want to come in and interview and see what this whole waiting tables is all about.
Yeah.
So
where you have to engage with people constantly.
Right, exactly. Right? And that was another eye-opening experience and learning experience for me too. So in a way, it's very positive. So that's what I did. I quit working there as a cashier and started working for the White Swan, which was a fine dining restaurant. And then I had my own experiences there too that weren't that great because of my race. Her and Mike were awesome employees, and I mean, they loved their staff, and it was a great place to work. It was stressful at times because you had to come in and learn the menu each time because it was different, and
right.
you could not recite it off a piece of paper. You had to know it. So when it comes back to the hair issue and then the dreads, so those things that I kind of went through, being the person I am, my hair didn't change who I was. I considered myself a pretty upright individual and doing the right things as much as possible at FAMU. So it was kind of facing that again.
Yeah, the same issue.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was like, I don't think I want to. So I kind of started learning more about physical therapy because I always had a love for health and wellness, the human body. I was always athletic growing up. I mean, I did martial arts as well for 5 years.
Were you running at FAMU at all, intramurals or anything?
No, I didn't do any athletics. I was still doing martial arts at that time. Okay. I started doing that in midway through high school and did it through college until PT school started. But anyway, so I started learning more about physical therapy. I had a friend who was applying for the program, and he kind of mentioned it to me. So I started researching it more. I said, that sounds great. I love the human body. I love health and wellness, and that's what I started pursuing.
Okay.
So yeah.
So when you graduate, were you a physical therapist, or what happened right after you finished?
That's another huge story within itself. I didn't get my degree right away.
Okay.
So my whole goal for going to PT school, right off the top, is my goal was not to be a physical therapist long term. So at that point in time, you can get out of PT school and you can make $60,000 to $7,000 coming out of school. So I said, that's pretty cool. So I figured I'll just work as a therapist for 2 to 3 years. Don't spend any money, just save and start whatever business I want to start.
Okay.
It could have been a pet shop. I didn't know, even though I'm not a big fan of pets, but
something like that.
But whatever it may be, I didn't know at that point in time.
Right.
But that was my whole thought process applying and going to PT school. Upon finishing this is what happened. My last rotation was for PT school. We had to do 4 rotations or internships. They last a month each. The last one I did was in Miami at a small hospital, Parkway Regional is what it was called. And I did a combination of acute care, pediatrics, and orthopedics in that rotation. Mm-hmm. All in all, I failed that internship. I didn't pass it. And partially, it's one of those things where you have a CI, which is your clinical instructor. We did not get along whatsoever. And we kind of butted heads on things as far as what I learned through previous internships and through school and what she learned.
So that derailed your progress. Yeah,
it derailed me completely. So I couldn't graduate not having that rotation as a fail. Not saying it was completely her fault or whoever, either way it happened. But I passed my last internship at Tampa, finished it, and went back to Tallahassee. And then even though I walked with my class at that point in time, I didn't really get my diploma because I got to do another rotation. At that point in time, I'm talking with the dean of the program, who was Dean Beck at that time. He was an awesome dean. Just trying to get placed for a new rotation so I can get my hospital criteria checked off for
Yeah.
us. There's like so many slots, and you got a new class that's coming in and so forth. So they couldn't get me into like a new spot to a whole year later. But in that time, I assisted the director in one of his kinesiology lab classes. So I helped out with that, and sometimes actually like leading class when he wouldn't show up. And then also work with TSPT, who had a contract with FSU, so working with students, basically doing physical therapy, and learned a whole bunch from Teresa. She's an awesome person.
So you enjoyed that experience?
Oh, it's a great experience. And Teresa is, like I even like babysat for Teresa. But
so it's funny, right? What seemed like a disaster ended up being a good thing for you.
Yeah,
right?
It was a great thing. The year goes by, and it's the next summer, and I get placed with a new rotation internship at Archibald Medical Center in Thomasville. And it comes around time to take my PT exam. I was going through some other things too that were like more personal stuff, so to speak. I wasn't sleeping a whole lot that whole year. And so I don't know. So I got down to taking my exam. I thought I was ready, but apparently I wasn't completely ready. And so I didn't pass it. So I said, oh, whatever.
Now is it a hands-on exam or a book? Like
a book.
A book exam.
Yeah. So
okay.
a national board exam. So I said, I'll just retake it. And it just got to a point where I just never like retook it, so to speak. But at that point in time, I was also like doing personal training through this. When I was like working that summer, I was doing my internship at Archibald. So I had to quit my job at TSPT working at FSU because of my rotation. So I started doing some, like on the weekends, I work at Plantation Health and Fitness. But that's how I got into like doing personal training. So I first started, I think I was like working the front desk. Then I got certified for personal training.
Had you lifted weights before? I mean, was that part of, obviously you probably lifted weights, but I mean, as far as in a formal like training environment, did you know a lot about that?
I was always active growing up. I started lifting weights myself when I was in middle school.
Right.
Yeah, in my garage, I hold a weight set, whatever, and trying to be buff at
I have a son who does
school.
that.
But like I let that go a lot in high school though, because we were running so much. And I actually, when high school ended, I quit running for a while and just worked out all the time. Mm-hmm. I put on quite a bit of weight post high school. I was like 132 when I graduated from high school, and like in my first year in college, I was like 150 or something like that. So I started doing personal training like in the evening times. Like I would go do my internship at Thomasville, Archibald, drive back to Tallahassee, and see like 3 or 4 clients in the evening time.
So when did it click in your head that you might be able to have a business doing that personal training?
That's how it all came together. You're finishing PT school and things not working out completely as planned with that, and then starting working at Plantation Health and Wellness and getting certified, and then working internship in Thomasville, doing training sessions in the evening. When Plantation Health and Wellness before it became Premier, Len Harvey, who just retired not that long ago. So he was my boss at Plantation Health and Fitness. He's like one day he brought me into his office. Like, so like, what do you want to do at the new gym when it opens? Like, what's your role? What do you want to how do you want to be a part of Premier Health Well clubs? Well, actually, I don't want to be a part of Premier Club.
I'm sure that's not the answer he was looking for.
He was an easygoing guy. So I told him like what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to like do this whole like business thing where I'm like bridging the gap between like rehab and fitness. Like I'm using my background in PT and orthopedics, which I love, and then been doing the training. Is like I just want to like do this business called like Fit and Functional. I think at the time I had already like came up with the name. It took me a while to come up with it. The Fit and Functional and PT in the whole physical therapy world, the whole goal is getting its function, getting your patient back to the highest functional level before the discharge.
Right.
So that's how the whole name came about, Fit and Functional. So, and that was like not long after that. It's like I kind of like knew that I wanted to work towards this whole goal of starting a business of my own and having it be in like rehab and fitness.
Right. So you're kind of just marrying the two things you were interested in.
Yeah.
With the business side, which you didn't give up on.
Right.
Right. And then but you've learned so much about the fitness and the PT and all that stuff.
Exactly.
It'll keep you to do that. So in 2000, right, you founded Fit and Functional.
Exactly.
So what did it look like when you first put out your shingle for the first time?
Um,
Was it just you? Did you have
no,
a
I mean,
space?
there was no
it?
shingle the first when I first started Fit and Functional. So like what happened? So I quit working for Plantation Health and Fitness and Premier when it became that. They allowed me to work as an independent, trainer at Premier. They only allowed individuals who are already kind of like working at Plantation Health and Wellness to do that. So I was thankful for that as well. So even though I was at Premier seeing clients, I wasn't working. I just paid rent to them basically. So I saw clients there. At that point in time, I was working for myself. So I was like, I'm not seeing enough clients to like really, like live on, so to speak.
Right.
So I need to like, have another other supplemental income. So I worked as a physical therapy aide with Stanley Smuckler, who had a little small physical therapy practice adjacent to Gazvini's chiropractic. So I was doing both, using that as a supplemental income as I grew my business. So I was seeing clients at Premier primarily. At that point, there's a gym called Legends. I would see some clients there. I had a few home clients I would go to as well. Actually, I had another business that I started too called Home Massage and Flexibility Services. So I would contract out massage therapists to do home sessions, and I would do like flexibility sessions, like out-call basically. So I also did that for a while as well.
What do you mean out-call? What does that mean?
Going to the homes or whatever it may be.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's what I did. And so until like 2004, well, actually before then, I had like a small space. I did some stuff with some chiropractors in town too with Dr. Ryan Finn and then Dr. Adrian Hill, who's in Crawfordville.
So at that point, are you advertising or marketing or trying to do word of mouth or something as a location, place to work out, or is it still through relationships from personal training?
It's through relationships. So at that point in time, I opened my own space. It was the right size, the right price. I had enough clientele at that point in time. I also at that point I had quit the PT office a while before that. So I had enough income coming in to go into this space and do what I needed to do. My only caveat at that time was like, buying all the equipment that was needed.
Right.
A bank would not give me a loan because I was considered, I guess, like a new business, even though I was in business before then, but I could do facility wise. So I just got the equipment financed through the actual equipment company itself.
So do you remember how much you had to invest in to get that started?
It was right around like total getting everything up and going. Probably like the equipment itself was like $32,000 and probably like an additional like maybe $5,000 to $7,000 just getting into this space and doing like cosmetic stuff.
Well, that's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, compared to like how things are today, it's very cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we'll get to what you offer now, and I'm sure you wish you could get it for $30,000, right?
Yeah.
So what was, when you're starting, kind of, I know the being fit and functional part, but kind of what is your vision? What in your head, what's going to be different about fit and functional than the other options that people might have when you were first getting started?
I guess one reason why I grew at a pretty fast clip when I opened my own space, is my background in rehab and PT was the strong point. Even when I was at Premier, because I brought all my clients from there over to my new studio, except for a couple who wanted to stay there for a while. But it was my background in rehab and PT. So like with anytime anyone had an issue or limitation, beyond the scope of another trainer, they would just say, "Oh, just go see Sherman." "Oh, I can't do that. Just go see Sherman." And also, one big thing too at that point in time, like no trainers were doing anything hands-on with their patients. With their clients. Back then, it's kind of changed over time, but at that point in time, there was like trainers weren't really quote unquote allowed to like do anything hands-on with their. It was beyond their scope of practice, so to speak, to stretch out their client to like do whatever it may be.
It would just be do so many of these, that kind of thing.
That type of thing. And I was the only one, even was at Plantation Health and Premier, doing anything hands-on.
Putting your hands on people.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because that's what I was used to, like, in
from therapy.
In therapy, yeah.
Right.
So I would spend time stretching out my clients. If they had like a shoulder or knee or something bringing it back, I would address it.
Right.
Because I had the knowledge to do so. So that was the biggest thing that kind of like, just kind of like stood out and I guess helped me propel faster than an average trainer would at that point in time.
Okay. So did people buy into that right away? Was that a driving force to help build your business, that it was something different than they could get other places?
Yeah, I would say so. One of the biggest things I get clients, they got really great results. And this is not to like to toot my own horn by any means, but the majority of the time, I would say like more than 90% of the time, if someone came into me with a limitation, I would get them past that limitation to a certain degree that they can function at a higher level. And that's all they really want. And that goes back to like, being in PT practice is like, and that's one thing I love about physical therapy, and it's part of my passion too itself. Is like, if someone's coming in with a limitation, like it's like your job to like, okay, this person is not functioning at a level that they potentially can be.
Right.
Okay. So it's now become my job to help them get to a higher functional level and to address their limitation. So,
and what age groups are you working with?
All age groups. It's primarily your baby boomers now, like your 60 plus individuals, but all age groups from high school age up mainly. We have people coming in who are athletes that have certain things, they have injuries or limitations that they're trying to get beyond as well, and just for like recovery things, just maintaining a level of recovery and performance is also
right.
Yeah.
Okay. You've mentioned some of the certifications that you've gotten over the years, but from information I found, is mainly from your website, is a strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, of course, flexibility therapist, wellness coach, running coach. I'm sure there are probably some other ones too. But
Yeah.
I mean, how do all those help you in working with clients? And is it something that you continue to pursue? I don't know how many more certifications there are, but tell me about it seems like you have a real desire to be as equipped as you possibly can to help your clients. Tell me about that thought process, how that all works.
Yeah. It all comes together in, it's some of those certifications, like, they can be used to like really specialize and work with a certain population. It helps me like kind of like be able to, when I'm faced with a situation with a client, they may be a runner with a certain limitation or injury they're recovering from. So being a flexibility therapist, my background in PT, being a certified running coach, like I can help them on multiple levels, beyond just, stretching them out and working on core conditioning itself. So all those are tools. Like when you even as a certified trainer, you have to go through continuing education, to maintain your certification.
Right.
So a lot of times you're getting these additional certifications as part of maintaining your main certification. So
that makes sense.
So you start building things underneath your belt.
Okay. So what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I enjoy the quote unquote freedom of being an entrepreneur.
Right. Well, let me ask you about that. I meant to ask you about that before. There's a great book about this written called The E-Myth. And it's that just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be good at running a business doing what you do.
I read that book, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So it's a little scary. But do you enjoy running the business part and being a business owner? Do you like that part?
I do. I enjoy that part. It's the most challenging part in itself, but at the same time, I prefer it over, working for someone else. I prefer it, sitting behind a desk. It's like one of those things like about being an entrepreneur and just being a business owner. And I'm by no means at a point where I think I've reached my goal at all.
Right.
It's constantly a learning, experience, like every day, every week, every month, every year. But I love the fact that it's like my goal, my vision, even though there's been times where it hasn't worked out the way I want it to work out. There's been times in the early years where people say, "Oh, like, why are you even doing that?" when they don't see what you see.
Hey, everybody. Just a quick reminder that this episode is brought to you by Fiore Communications. Just like people, every business has a story to tell, and we've been helping our clients tell their story since 2001, because who you are as a company is just as important as what you do. To learn more about how telling your story can make a difference in your business, visit fiorecommunications.com. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show. Becoming a business owner and starting to hire people, what experience did you have related to employment and hiring people?
Yeah, so my first experience was that I had a trainer who worked with me. His name was Micaiah. And this was like in 2000, maybe 6. It's like 2 years after opening my location, first actual real location for Fit and Functional, and growing really fast in that location. I needed some additional help. And this guy, Micaiah, he was looking for, he just graduated from FSU at exercise science. He was worked at Gold's Gym for a little bit and was looking for like another training position. So he came on at Fit and Functional. Having that experience of my first employee was a person that really grasped the concept of entrepreneurship and business. He had a passion to grow. He wanted to learn everything that I was doing, and he pretty much kind of like mirrored those things. Even to the point where people thought he was the owner of the business. So he took, I guess, great pride in Fit and Functional and the growth of Fit and Functional.
Okay. Was that a good thing to you?
It was a very good thing.
Yeah.
But that was my first experience with an employee.
So you thought everybody would be that way?
Exactly.
And they weren't. Yeah. So understanding. So he had a passion for you, for the business, wanted to make like it was his own.
Yes. We the time that he was there, we doubled in revenue.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. But your experience was not the same with everyone else.
Correct.
So how did you adapt there? How did you adjust your expectations when you realized everybody wouldn't be as great as him?
Well, it took me a few years to figure that out. After going through some other employees, I realized and learned. But I mean, at the same time, I've also learned along the way that as part of my responsibility to help the ones that have the desire but may not have all the skills.
Right.
Help them get there, and then in turn they'll help you as well.
Right.
So I love the business side of it. But I also love, the ability to help individuals also.
Right. Yeah. All right. So I interrupted you before, but when you talk about what really drives you in as far as what you enjoy doing in your business, I assume it has to do with the success of individuals and seeing them, improve. But what really gets you excited about going to work every day and what, the potential outcomes you can help achieve for people?
Yeah. It's always an opportunity for growth in many different ways. Personal growth, business growth, growth for our clients.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for me, again, it's this vision of like what could be. And sometimes you get trapped in the now or, dealing with certain, issues within the business or even personal issues. You're kind of like blinded from from what should be happening or where you should be going. I was in that for a while, not anymore, but the main driving thing for me is just like I always have this vision. I have this vision. Getting up each day is an opportunity for me to work on that vision. And that's within the business itself. It's like within our clients and everything that comes together. I'm thankful for our clients, and I wouldn't be where I am now without the clients. And I think about that often as well, how appreciative I am of our clients at Fit and Functional and so forth. And a lot of them have been with us for many, many years.
Are you getting closer to that vision, what you have in your head?
As an entrepreneur, you're never close. Are you really?
I guess the goal always changes, right?
I can say that right now we're at a point where I'm happy that we're there. It was a point I've been working towards for a while that was halted for a period of time.
Mm. Yeah. Well, tell us about Fit and Functional today. Where are you? What are you doing? What services are you providing? This is your chance to kind of just tell us all about the company, as it is right now.
All right. Well, Fit and Functional itself, we have 2 locations here in Tallahassee. We have a Midtown location and a Northside location on Cary Forest Parkway. Fit and Functional, we are a personal fitness and wellness studio. We don't consider ourselves as a gym. All our sessions are by appointment mainly, and we focus on personalized fitness for your general population. And But we also have, a component where we work with individuals who are going through limitations. We call it post-rehab conditioning. It can be any facet of type of limitation when it comes to your physical health, through hips, backs, shoulders, whatever it may be, mobility, flexibility. We do quite a bit of hands-on flexibility therapy as well. I'm not the only one that's certified in that on my team. I have others. And that's been a growing part of our business, just focusing on that even more, because most people don't realize that flexibility is one of the main 5 components of being physically fit.
I do.
You do. Yes.
Or lack of.
Yeah, more people will recognize that, that these days, and it's become more mainstream, but it's something that we've always done and trying to do more of that as well. And working towards getting to the point where we're doing more recovery sessions as well. Recovery is just, when you're exercising and working out, there's the strength training and working out component, but there's also the recovery component. They go hand in hand to advance your functional capacity and your overall strength. And we're working on doing more of that,
right,
especially a lot with athletes and with the runners and so forth that come in for like maintenance, for flexibility therapy and myofascial and compression therapy as well.
You have group classes as well as individual training?
We do. We do a small group session. So we're not we don't do anything large group wise. So our small group sessions are like, roughly around 4 individuals. And we do this at our Midtown locations and Cary Forest location. Majority, we have more sessions at our Cary Forest locations for small group versus Midtown. Yeah.
And you're obviously not doing this by yourself, right? You've got
I have a
team who helps.
Yes. I have a team. I have 6 other trainers that work with me, and front desk staff and bookkeeper and so forth, all those things that help me keep running.
Sure. Yeah. Do you ever take the time? I know you said you never stop pushing because that's the way entrepreneurs think, but do you ever look back and just kind of take a minute to appreciate, that what you've built and that you're providing jobs and helping people get better on a bigger scale than when you started?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's, being thankful again for like what you have done and where you've come, the point I've come to. And I look at that and a lot of people from the outside, like, oh, like you're so successful. You've like done so much. And I say like, oh man, I don't really think that way. But I mean, but at the same time, even though I say that, I do sit back and appreciate, the process and where we are. It could be completely different as well. So
when you said things were halted for a while, was that COVID related?
No, even before COVID, there was just some transitional things. Even because I've been in the business for over 22 years, and
right.
So you have your whole economic thing back in 2008, 2009.
Right.
That was a strong, big. That was
rough.
That was my true test as an individual and as a business owner. At that point in time, I was doing really well. For myself, I opened up a second location in it was called Group Fit 90. It was all just group sessions, and that opened in 2008, not knowing what was going to happen later that year and the following year, taking on quite a deal of debt at that time, way more than I was currently paying with my current location at that time at for Fit and Functional. But I had the capital to do it, and I ran the numbers like even if this doesn't work, I'm still making revenue enough to like cover everything and pay myself. But that was before I knew that there was going to be an economic downturn.
Yeah.
There was like a 30% drop in my revenue at Fit and Functional on top of like opening up a new studio where my overhead was, 3-4 times what it was prior. So that was like a true moment, test for me. And where I had to cut back, I decreased my individual pay for myself 75%, got roommates from my house. Luckily, I owned my own house at the time and rented out 2 of my rooms to pay mortgage.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people were doing stuff they wouldn't have imagined.
Yeah, and just cut back every way I could and did that for a little period of time, and things started to recover in 2012 and 13. So
yeah. Well, you're here. You made it through.
Yeah.
All right. 2 final questions. One is, Sherman, looking back, what is the one thing or person that changed or altered the trajectory of your life to this point?
I remember one day after church, we were outside of the church building, and my friend, his dad, said something to me, like, his name was Harold. He said, well, we go through this life only one time, and you want to make the best of it, or something to that degree. It's not exact words, but that was like, because until that point in time, I was like pondering about, like, am I going to do this, am I going to take this step or going into adding my own space? And am I really going to do fit and function, or am I just going to move to Miami and just work for a corporate facility gym there? Because I had the opportunity as well. So he said that, and I was like, okay, I got it.
You need to go for it.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Right.
So that's stuck out in my mind this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing sometimes how people can just make a comment.
Yeah.
That can really, that really sticks to you for some reason. I mean, people say stuff to us all the time, but certain things really sink in for some reason. Mm-hmm. Final question. This podcast is named How I Got Here. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about how you got to this point in your life.
Right.
Where do you think here might be for you in 3 to 5 years from now?
That's a hard question, and I really don't like answering those questions because I've learned through the years that life deals you hands that you may not be prepared for and changes your direction, which is okay, and I'm okay with that completely. I guess I can tell you like my hopes, but
I'm not going to come back and say, look, you were wrong.
Because things change every year,
Sure.
But I would say right now I would ideally have just continued growth at my current locations and growing my staff, getting our recovery program, which we're about to add in that new category and really push that forward within fit and functional, and hoping and having another licensed PT on staff as well is a goal within the next couple of years. It's been a goal for a while, but I really want to try to make that happen within the next year or two to help push some other programs that we're working towards as well that's going to help individuals be more functional along the way.
Thanks for listening to the show. You can subscribe at Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review. It really does make a difference. Thanks to my amazing staff at Fiore Communications, who pick up the slack while I'm working on these podcasts, and to Troy Bloom for composing our theme music. You can hear more of Troy's creations on Facebook and Instagram at Troy Bloom Music. To connect with the podcast or suggest a future guest, follow us on social media or email us at podcast@fiorecommunications.com.